He was, by almost any measure, the most successful leader in history. He ended 100 years of civil war. He ruled for over 40 years. He created the Pax Romana, a 2-century golden age of peace, prosperity, and cultural achievement that became the foundation of Western civilization. So why is the story of this man, Augustus, not a celebration, but a warning? Because he achieved all of this by creating the blueprint for how to kill a democracy. He didn't destroy the system overnight. He did it so gradually, so masterfully, that most Romans didn't realize their republic was dead until it was long buried. He taught future leaders the most dangerous political lesson of all: how to make authoritarianism feel like a gift. This is his playbook. To understand how he pulled this off, we have to go back to the beginning. The year is 44 BCE, and he isn't the revered Augustus yet. He's Gaius Octavius, an 18-year-old with no political experience, who has just learned his great-uncle, Julius Caesar, has been assassinated, and named him his heir. Rome is a powder keg. Caesar's assassins believe they've saved the Republic, but all they've done is create a power vacuum. Into this chaos steps a teenager whom the establishment dismisses as a footnote. They were about to learn a fatal lesson. Octavian's first move was genius. He wouldn't be Caesar. He would learn from Caesar's fatal flaws. Where Caesar was arrogant, Octavian would be humble. Where Caesar confronted the Senate, Octavian would flatter it. Where Caesar flaunted his power, Octavian would conceal it. The most successful political career in history began with an 18-year-old mastering the art of calculated humility. While Rome's elite congratulated themselves, Octavian studied why Caesar died. The answer was simple. Romans despised the idea of a king, but they craved a strong man who could bring order. Caesar gave them a king. Octavian would offer them a savior. He dressed like an ordinary senator. He lived in a modest house. He spoke endlessly of serving the Republic, not ruling it. But while everyone was watching this performance of humility, Octavian was quietly collecting the real levers of power. Caesar entered the Senate demanding to be treated like a god. Octavian entered asking for advice. Same goal, total control. Radically different method. This is the foundational rule in the Augustus Playbook. Wrap a revolution in the flag of restoration. Promise a return to cherished traditions while enacting radical change. Claim you are protecting the system while concentrating all power in your own hands. Next, Octavian turned Caesar's money into his own personal power base. Mark Antony was hoarding Caesar's fortune. Octavian demanded it, and when he got it, he immediately gave it all away, paying out Caesar's promised bonuses to the Roman people and his soldiers. Overnight, he wasn't just Caesar's heir. He was the man who kept Caesar's promises. He then formed a strategic alliance, the Second Triumvirate, with his chief rivals, Mark Antony and Lepidus. It was a deal he planned to break from day one. This is where Octavian showed his ruthless streak. The Triumvirate published prescription lists, legal hit lists. Thousands of influential Romans were executed. Their only crime? Being a potential threat to the new order. The lesson is brutal but timeless. Durable power requires both popular support and the neutralization of the elite. Today, the hit lists are different. Opponents are buried in lawsuits, deplatformed by media allies, or targeted by bureaucratic investigations until they are silenced. The goal is the same: eliminate inconvenient people. While Caesar was a legendary general, Octavian was a propaganda genius. He let brilliant generals like Agrippa win the battles, which allowed him to take full credit for victories and blame others for defeats. His ultimate victory, the naval battle of Actium against Mark Antony and Cleopatra, was won long before the ships ever sailed. It was a triumph of narrative warfare. Octavian's spin machine turned a Roman civil war into a clash of civilizations. Rome versus Egypt, West versus East, virtuous tradition versus foreign decadence. By the time the battle began, Antony was already cast as a traitor corrupted by a foreign power. Modern leaders use this exact strategy. Frame every conflict as a moral crusade. Whether the narrative is patriots versus globalists or democracy versus fascism, the goal is to control the story so completely that the outcome of the actual fight is secondary. Here we arrive at Augustus's ultimate innovation. He didn't abolish the Roman Republic's institutions. He just made them irrelevant. He let the Senate keep its fancy robes and titles, making them feel important while he bled them of all actual power. He did it by accumulating different powers, one by one, always sold as a temporary response to a crisis. The power of a tribune for life, to protect the people, control over the grain supply, to prevent famine, command of key armies, to guarantee stability. Each power grab was a short-term fix that quietly became permanent. Does this sound familiar? Think of the expansion of surveillance after September 11th. Emergency economic measures from the 2008 crisis that became permanent. Unprecedented executive actions during the COVID pandemic. Augustus perfected the art of institutional capture. Keep the facade, but gut the substance. The Senate still met and debated, but the real decisions were made in Augustus's office. And this brings us back to the uncomfortable truth. The Augustus method worked. The Pax Romana was real. But this golden age came at a steep and ultimately fatal price. The freedoms that Romans had cherished for centuries vanished under his velvet glove. But the greatest cost wasn't just what Augustus did, it was the system he built. By centralizing all authority into the hands of one man, the emperor, Augustus solved the immediate crisis of civil war, but created a devastating long-term vulnerability. He established a system of hereditary autocracy that removed all democratic checks and balances. When the autocrat was competent, like Augustus, Rome thrived. But when the autocrat was a monster, like Nero or Caligula, the system offered no defense. Augustus traded the messy resilience of a republic for the brittle efficiency of a dictatorship. He ensured that future generations would be entirely hostage to the character of a single ruler. He delivered results, but the price was the republic itself and the safety of every generation that followed. As Augustus lay dying after over 40 years of rule, he supposedly asked his friends, "Have I played my part well in the comedy of life?" He had. He solved the fundamental problem of power: how to be a king without ever wearing a crown. His success reveals the most dangerous truth about democratic decay. The threat isn't always the raving tyrant. It's often the competent leader who delivers peace, prosperity, and order, and in exchange asks only for your freedom to choose otherwise. Augustus built roads and aqueducts while building invisible chains. He gave Romans stability while taking their voice. He made authoritarianism feel like a gift. The story of Augustus is a warning manual for every modern democracy. It shows us how freedom is most often lost, not in a sudden cataclysm, but drop by drop, with the consent of the governed. The real challenge for any citizen is not recognizing this playbook when it's used by your political opponents. That's easy. The true test is recognizing it and resisting it when it is used by the leaders you support for goals you may even agree with. Because the moment we decide that a leader is too effective to be constrained by democratic rules, we've already consented to our own subjugation, and the spirit of the republic is already dead.